Nobody cares about the details of your life the way you do. And people don't know what to fight for on your behalf if you don't direct them. So you have to be an active part of the process.
Hey Joe, how are you going?
I'm doing well. I heard about something over the weekend.
Oh, do tell me.
Have you ever heard of a divorce prep coach?
Yeah, I actually have.
Like, what is that?
Well, I don't know enough about it, but we've actually got a guest on.
We do?
Alex Beattie, who is one, and I think we could probably ask her what a divorce coach is.
Yes.
Yeah, let's do that then.
So we do have a guest today. Her name is Alex Beattie. Let me tell you a little bit about her before we put her on. She's actually a veteran film and television producer. She took her own divorce experience and turned it into a service that helps others navigate marital separation and divorce with financial clarity and confidence. So the Divorce Planner, which is her business, is a comprehensive prep resource for anyone facing a separation or divorce. In addition to her coaching business, she actually lives in Los Angeles with her 2 kids and a huge cat named Charlie. She's been featured in the New York Times, Real Simple, and Parents Magazine. So we'll include Alex's contact information in the episode show notes in case you want to get in touch with her later. Welcome, Alex.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
There's the lady of the hour.
Yes. Welcome. So, Alex, we want to know,
what is a divorce planner? And what is, I guess, a divorce prep coach? Are they the same thing as each other or not?
That's a great question. Well, a divorce coach and a divorce prep coach are similar in that they work with people during or after divorce. But I specifically specialize in working with people in advance of a separation or a divorce. So I help them address the emotional side of what's coming and what's going on, as well as the business side. So they address both but separate them. I love to prepare people with all of the administrative stuff necessary that they need to gather for a divorce attorney or a mediator before they start the process so that they become their own best advocate, cut back on billable hours by having all that information from the jump, and also understanding what their goals and priorities are. So that as they move through the divorce process, which is overwhelming, they stay on track like a North Star.
So I heard you say something that we've talked about before, and I'm just going to say it right now. I got it from you. You were talking about how important it is to separate emotions and the business side of divorce. Can you go into that a little more?
Absolutely. Look, going through a divorce, even in the most amicable of situations, sucks. It's going to bring up a lot of big feelings, right? So that's one half. It's the end of a period of your life. It's the end of a relationship. And, it's also the end of a dream potentially of what my future and what my life is going to be. And then on the other side, we have a dissolution of a legal contract, right? And those two things don't really go well together. By being able to address the emotional side of what you're going through separately from preparing you for the business and the negotiation side of what's to come, my goal is to put you, whether you're a client, coaching client, whether you're somebody who follows me on social media, giving you all the tools so you start focusing on your future and really have a moment of deep introspection about where you are now and where you want to go, because ultimately divorce is an opportunity, right? Divorce is an opportunity to really create a life that aligns with who you are. But if you're not aware of that before starting to negotiations, you're going to come from behind, especially when it comes to financial realities.
Alex, a question that I've got for you is then, are you a replacement though for other professionals like, lawyers, mediators, CDFAs? How do you fit into that whole divorce puzzle?
That's another great question. And I love that you brought up all these different divorce professionals. I think there's an idea that having a divorce team is really reserved for the wealthy, the 1%, the succession families. And that's not true. And no matter what your budget, there are experts you can reach out to who are going to give you a lot of guidance during the process. I don't believe one person replaces the other. I'm really proud that my work's been embraced by the legal community, by divorce attorneys and mediators, because as I said, I'm really about getting people organized So they have everything necessary in hand when it comes to documents and statements, assets, their value, and what they're going to want, their negotiables and non negotiables, as well as a clear understanding of where they are financially now and how that's going to change. So then they are an active part of the process when they're engaging a divorce attorney or a mediator. When they're going to that financial planner, they have everything in hand and they're ready from the jump to be a part of the process and not be kind of at the whim of other people and overwhelmed because they don't understand what the process is. So I'm one of the many pieces of the puzzle out there for people to really utilize to their benefit.
So really you're helping them instead of them reacting to what is needed by the attorney or the mediator, you're helping them be proactive, right? So that's the prep coach part. You're preparing them for these meetings so that they know what they're getting into, or at least they have the homework ready and they're not wasting valuable billable hours on just figuring out what the homework is about.
That's absolutely true. And it also goes back to that emotional side, right? Helping them separate and put into the proper categories all of the big things that come up when you are at this point in your life allows me to organize them not just administratively and financially, but emotionally, because your divorce attorney is not a therapist. And they will listen to you, but they're going to bill you like a divorce attorney. You know what I mean? So, like being able to help people utilize the right professionals in the right way is again part of the preparation and education process, but it's very tailored to the person who I'm working with or who's doing my course or who's following what I'm saying on social media, that you can take all that information and really make it customized to your situation.
Yeah, I was thinking one of the things that you hadn't mentioned up until just that sentence there is I reckon that you would also probably wear the hat of a therapist, because you spoke about separating emotion beforehand, which we've spoken about it beforehand, and it's a big part of a divorce there. But at the end of the day, you need to kind of separate that so that you can move on to the financial side of things, and getting it settled. I assume in your role as this divorce prep coach, are you having to also be like a bit of a therapist as well to help guide them along?
So, yeah, I mean, I work with people on the emotional side in a way, because what I find more often than not is when you're at this point in your life, you can feel overwhelmed and shut down in all areas. So what I do is organize you, not just on that business side, but also on the emotional side. I start working with you to find out where you are. Do you have a support system in place? Are you working with a therapist? Are you working with a support group? What kind of self-care are you doing? I know there's a picture of like getting your nails done and having a facial, but what I mean by self-care is, are you journaling? Do you have that support system? Are you getting out for a walk into nature? Are you allowing yourself time to check in with yourself and to decompress and to take care of yourself? Because if you're not okay during this process, the process isn't going to go well.
Right. I think you even supply some journal entries, right, to help people organize their thoughts.
I absolutely do. So I created a digital and printable bundle of worksheets, logs, and spreadsheets for people that speak to exactly what my coaching philosophy is. And one of those worksheets is identifying your divorce goals and priorities. And the companion to that is a gratitude journal, so that you're starting to put into practice certain self-care things in your everyday, but that feel doable, right? The other part of my coaching is accountability. So I'm helping people get organized, stay on track, and also figure out when you're so overwhelmed, as you said, Joseph D, to be kind of proactive and not reactive and start setting up these systems for themselves so that they're in the best possible position as they move through this big life change to navigate those changes, especially financially, emotionally, in such a way that they have a softer landing on the other side, alleviates a lot of anxiety, financial fears, and also again activates them to be a part of the legal process in a way that makes them feel empowered and clear about what's next.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think empowering is definitely important there. So
yeah, just giving people their power back especially if they feel like this came out of left field. Just help them find that power. Now, in a second, we're going to start talking about a fun topic, the concept of hidden assets. But before we get there, if you don't mind just sharing with our audience, briefly, what was your own divorce like? And I guess, what did you feel like you did right? What were the lessons that you learned?
I love being able to share this because one of the things that was missing when I was going through my own divorce experience, which is like what led me to this work and this journey in my life, was I love sharing my own story so that somebody else gets hope. Like I was looking for practical tips and tools that I could use to help me when I was feeling really uncertain at a point in life where I didn't know what was going to happen. Was my marriage going to survive? Was I going to divorce? I had young kids. I was overwhelmed. So I think the being able to put my focus on what was in my control, namely, okay, well, I don't know which way things are going to go, but if they go towards a divorce, what do I need to do to prepare for that? Why don't I put my focus there? And no matter what happens, I'm going to kind of tame this anxiety I have about, oh my God, we're going from a 2 income household to one. Holy shit, how am I going to make that work? Wait, the kids aren't going to be with me full time. Oh my God, my heart is literally broken. Like there's a lot
Yeah.
to unpack in this process. And so, my natural skill set is I'm a highly organized person in that way,
You're a
but I'm
producer.
also, I'm a producer. Yes. But I'm also a highly empathetic person. So I just dug into what felt right for me. And I started organizing myself the way I would on a production, right? I'm in charge of multi-million dollar budgets and lots of people and moving parts, and I need to be in charge of paperwork. So I took that structure and applied it to my divorce. And what I came up with, I found not only put me in a great position when I was taking consultations with divorce attorneys or mediators, because from the jump, I had access to everything they wanted. But even in consultations, I was able to say, here's what I know, here's what I don't know. And
Mm.
so I could get answers from people early on about my situation because I had done that prep work. And that really it benefited me in a couple of ways. First and foremost, it allowed me to make a smart choice as to who my representative was going to be because I got to test them out a little bit. It's kind of like dating when you're picking that person. And
Yeah.
then the other half of that was once I hired that person, I said, here you go. And they had everything to start work as opposed to emailing, calling, I need this piece of paper. How much are you spending on this? What's going on? They had it, which saved me hundreds, if not
Yeah.
thousands of dollars in billable hours. And also
Right.
I had an understanding of like, I addressed the emotional side of what I was going through as well by
Mhm.
kind of separating it and writing a letter to my future self about as if I was living that next chapter. What does it look like? So the same principles that I then ended up fine tuning and really turning into something that I'm really grateful to say has benefited thousands of people throughout the US and Canada.
So, Alex, I've got a question on that. So, when you realize, and obviously you've got a background in like being really organized, so that's not natural for everyone, but like, did you try and find a resource or resources out there online that could help
Mhm.
guide you? And then you found out that really wasn't, and you then
Mhm.
just had to create it yourself. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that?
Yes, that's a great question, Jade. At the time, I mean, I gotta say, it's like I was putting into Google "cool mom divorce." It's like I didn't know where to start, but I was like, what I was finding was a lot of very dry information that read like routing instructions from attorneys' websites, or even if it was like Wikipedia or something of what to do. But it was very generalized and again, very dry. And what I realized was what came naturally to me was I want to simplify it for somebody else and make it attainable. So I went, and I'm a storyteller. I'm able to like break down whether it's fiction or nonfiction into easy to follow, right? Different acts. Well, creating worksheets and spreadsheets and working with financial planners on my monthly budget calculator, it allowed me to put it into people speak, which is me,
Mhm.
stay in my lane because this is not about being a legal professional. It's really about keeping you organized and accountable and kind of activated in the process. But in a way that's like all of my materials are kind of like having hired a private trainer to come up with a workout routine. And it's like, A, grab the 20-pound dumbbells. B, walk them to the bench. When you
Yeah.
get to the bench, here's what your form is as you pick it up. Now we're going to do 8 of these reps and we're going to take a 30-second break. That's how easy I made it, because that when you're going through an emotionally overwhelming time, you don't have time to go through the minutia or to figure out a new language because you're reading things in legal ease.
Yeah.
So it's just applying like my skill set and my talents to this to make it palatable for anybody, no matter what your budget level.
Well, I just remember, I didn't mention this when I was introducing you, Alex. You are my divorce mentor. So I've said this in many podcasts, my divorce mentor. So it's Alex. So I went through, an early version of your divorce planner.
Yeah.
It was great. So now let's talk about those hidden assets. I hear about it all the time where, people that are getting ready to divorce, or if I'm talking
Here to get a forensic accountant,
one spouse, I'm certain that he or she is hiding something from me. I just don't know how to prove it. I don't know where to go look for it. You and I have talked about this, Alex. A lot of the time, there's usually not actually anything hidden, or at least hidden on purpose. If you could add a little bit more about that in terms of your experience working with clients, prepping their documents.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that it's a very buzzy thing out there on divorce social media that your spouse is hiding money from you. They're hiding assets during your divorce. So it's another, fear sells. Let's just call it what it is. Number one, more often than not, people aren't intentionally hiding things. Maybe they are, but everything comes out in the wash and it's not as complicated as we think. I think because the financial aspect of divorce is so emotionally triggering because it's fear about your future, it's easy to get caught up in, do I know everything? Which is honestly why preparing before you start the process is so important. All that admin stuff and financial stuff I was talking about, because if you have access to account statements and documents, your tax returns for the past 2 years, you get an idea of where your accounts are, especially if perhaps you haven't been in charge, the main person in charge of your finances. There's still ways for you to get information about the budget and the money in your life. Number two, you start laying the groundwork of where to look for stuff. Coming through and going through and making a list of all the different account information from your tax returns is a great place to start. When you see the different bank account informations, if you don't have access to a bank account, at least you see, we all have to report if you have a bank account. Even if you earn 12 cents of interest that year, you can say, I don't have access to that account, but I know it exists, and start keeping a list, because your attorney and the other attorney, there's going to be a financial disclosure process, right? So everybody has to come to the table bringing all their financial information. So when you know what you have access to and you know what exists but you don't have access to, that starts the ball rolling on uncovering these hidden assets, because you're informed, right? So you can ask the right questions. And number two, there's usually a trail to follow.
Mm-hmm.
So that could mean, wait, I just saw $5,000 a year ago because I went through my bank statements from 2 years ago. Last May, $5,000 was taken out and transferred into another account I've never seen. Question mark.
What is that account? Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then you bring it up during finance. So it's just about you being a part of the process. Also, there are other ways that people might be, quote unquote, hiding assets that are more about, you just don't know that perhaps if you have a spouse who's in the corporate world, you have to ask about deferred income. You have to ask about bonuses. You have to ask about stock options that could be gifted. And again, all of that is about educating yourself really before starting the process, so you're not billed at a high hourly rate to learn on the go.
Right. So going line item by line item, I would say just even looking for those line items that say, okay, this amount of money got transferred to this unknown account. Ask that. I think that is, I feel like, a really easy, straightforward way to look for these hidden assets. And when I say hidden, I do it like that because sometimes it's not on purpose.
Well, sometimes it's in plain sight.
Yeah. When I was on Alex's IG Live the other day, we were talking about this too, where if you've ever gone through the mortgage process and the underwriter's asking you about the 2 cents that got transferred to this place, where did it go? That's kind of the job that you're going to be doing. And you'll find that if you've ever gone through that mortgage process, it's not like you were trying to hide something from the underwriter. You just didn't even think about it.
Mhm.
It's like, oh, I transferred that $10 to my kid's account. I didn't think that was important. It is. It's relevant in this case.
It also goes to, as I mentioned, it's not uncommon for one person in a relationship to kind of be in charge of finances and the other person to feel a bit in the dark. So when you are that other person who feels like they're coming from behind, it feels like everything's hidden, right? So again, by implementing some easy ways to start financially planning and preparing before starting the divorce process, not only is going to tame those anxieties about I'm coming from behind, I don't have access, somebody else has been in charge of everything. It's also going to make you feel a lot more in control over the negotiation process, as opposed to, the other part of what I work with people on is when you're coming out of a long-term relationship, especially before going into a divorce negotiation, you're really used to being a part of a we. And I really work with clients on preparing to be me, because that's the way you need to think moving forward. That doesn't mean I'm trying to get one over the other person. I'm trying to hide things. What it means is I need to actually ask questions. I need to advocate on my behalf, and I need to look out for my best interests of what, because every decision I make moving forward is going to have a direct ripple effect on my future. And the other person has that kind of prerogative and should be their focus as well.
Right.
Anybody who's just at a point in their lives where separation or divorce is what's next, both parties are in the position that you both need to start preparing. And that doesn't mean together. That means individually.
Right. Because now each of you is your own number one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, thanks. Thanks, Alex. And just so all of you know, Alex has tons of very simple and straightforward practical tips on her website that you'll be able to check out. But in the meantime, Alex, we do this fun divorce this or that
segment. Yeah.
Segment,
So you're going to be roped in to join us.
Great.
So we've got one. You don't have to go. Well, we should allow you to go first.
No, we're going to make you go first. Yeah, sorry.
So we're going to do it.
You have to pick one or the other. You got to divorce one or the other thing. So we're going to give you two choices.
Yeah. So it's a DIY this or that. And I guess the caveat with it is that you can get no help from a person.
No live person to help,
There's
but you
no
can Google
internet,
the heck everything.
You can't search.
No, you can. You can Google everything.
Oh, you can.
Yeah, but
Right,
you
okay.
can't have a live person to help you.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. So one is building an entire home that you have to live in. So no contractors.
You have to use your own hands, and you don't want it to collapse on you and your kids and Charlie.
And the other one, what we're going to do is going through the divorce process by yourself. No attorneys, no mediators, not you.
Not Alex.
Yeah, not Alex, not your business. And
but the spouse has anything they want.
Yeah,
they can hire a lawyer, mediator, whatever they need.
Which ones would you choose to not do in divorce?
Would you rather build your own house or run your own divorce?
I'm so excited to welcome you to my house that I just built. I'm going to be having an open house. You know what? Hands down. I know enough to know what I don't know. And when you're going through a divorce, it is about dissolving a legal contract, and to do that without some access to somebody who has a law degree looking through what you're doing and representing you don't know what you don't know. On a house, I'm a little more confident. I can set up some things in advance to test them out, and I have that wiggle room. But the decisions you make during divorce, there is no do-over in divorce. Technically there is, but it's going to cost you a lot of money. Like Jade, your client who you just went back and found those assets, it's much harder to open a judgment and get change after the fact. Whereas with the house, if it falls down, I can build another one.
As long as you're alive anyway. But yes.
Which one would you pick, Joe?
I'm going to have to build that tiny house myself. Yeah.
We're going to have some interesting houses.
I think I might start with just like an RV, because there was nothing in the rule book. Buy a little RV from 1992.
I'm actually going to pick the house too, but I'm just going to buy a shipping container home.
So smart.
Or I could just order it from Amazon.
On me as well.
Yeah, I can order like an instant house from Amazon.
Those tiny houses.
I just saw one at IKEA.
Oh, really?
What?
They sell one now.
They do.
Interesting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today.
It was great to learn about this resource out there that, you know, clients can definitely leverage to help reduce that billable hours when they start hiring, you know, a professional and stuff like that.
Right. Getting prepped, doing their homework,
Yeah.
helping someone to help them with their homework.
And you mentioned earlier, it's about that empowering. So I think, yeah, the more that we can empower someone through that process, the more they can, even if they're the non-CFO spouse, they can start feeling like they're starting to drive again.
Right.
And control the process.
Nobody cares about the details of your life the way you do. And people don't know what to fight for on your behalf if you don't direct them. So you have to be an active part of the process.
That's right. So that was Alex Beattie, the divorce planner. And again, we will have her contact details in the show notes if you want to get in touch with her. This is another episode of Cover Your Assets.
Thanks for joining us. And thanks, Alex.
Thank you.